Thank you. And also, actually, we brought Hilton and I will be having conversations through this presentation. But also, our colleague Elizabeth Binning is with us, and I think she's maybe not allocated as a presenter, and there she comes. So now it's the three of us. And first of all, thank you to Kaptan Adi once again for having us and give us this opportunity to talk about how we work with AI and especially how business advisors can utilize AI technologies. We have, as of every year, something new to show this year that we're excited about to launch for the first time in the Middle East as we are here today. I myself am from Denmark. Hilton is based in South Africa, from South Africa. Elizabeth in the United States, in Texas. And we are a company that have staff all over the world. We also have representatives in the Middle East, in Asia, and everywhere. And as I say every year, one of the things I truly like about this conference, Dr. Nadi, is how you managed to assemble such an international audience from around the world. I don't think I know any other conference that has such a broad representation. So congratulations on that. Otherwise, I think we will get started. And for those who are here live, and I know that many will be watching recordings as well, I want to kick us off first here. Say just a few words about Growth Wheel. We are a company dedicated to support the business advisors. So we don't work with the entrepreneurs, we work with the business advisors and bring to them everything they need to be successful. This includes training and many other things, and AI as well. And today, what we're going to talk about and launch is a new tool that we made, and we're going to show how it integrates with AI. This is just not the tool that we made. We're going to really show a case study of how any tool that you might be using, you may be using the business model canvas, you may be using a SWOT analysis, you may be using balanced scorecard, you may be using any kind of framework for advising entrepreneurs, or even if you're an entrepreneur yourself, to develop your business. We're going to show a case study here of how we implemented the bridge between such frameworks and technologies with AI. But I do owe everyone just a few words about the Growth Wheel advisory system. We've been occupied for 17 years in figuring out how advisors can be better. And it is a challenge when you are an advisor that it's easy to get overwhelmed. Because you're working as an advisor with many different kinds of businesses and different life stages, different industries with different personalities, and they have very many different business problems. However, we always thought that the real problem is how to get organized. And that's why Growth Wheel is a simple structure of how you can look at a business, have conversations, dive into different areas, and it works for any kind of industry. So I know we here at this conference have participants from the healthcare industry, we have from the technology industry, but we also have entrepreneurs who are in the food industry or any other industry, and all of them can use this framework in their business. They can use it no matter what life stage they're at. So maybe even we have entrepreneurs at the conference who are thinking about starting a business, and I know for sure that we have representatives who've been running their businesses for very many years and might be in their growth stage, their mature stage, or even in a transition. Growth Wheel, the framework can be used for even businesses of different sizes, whether you are a one-person company, a 50-person company, or a 500-person company. So what really Growth Wheel is a way to show what we're going to work with. And as we're utilizing AI, the question becomes, how is it that AI can support some of this work? One such challenge that companies have is to create an attractive business concept. What is a great product, service, or technology that somebody wants to buy? So you work on designing products, and you work on designing, writing up missions, finding the right business model, finding the right customer portfolio, and find out how you can be different than the competition and things like that. But it's not enough to have a great business idea. You also need to have an organization behind it. So you need to hire people, full-time, part-time, freelance, remote. You need to have partners, distributors, vendors, suppliers, and so on. You need to have an organizational structure for that. In terms of business processes, there are legal compliance in some cases. You need an executive team and management and all that stuff that everybody who runs a business or advises one already knows. So sometimes we focus on that. Other times, it's about customer relations, because that's really where the income is coming from. So how can businesses build lasting customer relations through networking, marketing, branding, through sales work, customer journeys, and things like that. But even for those companies who have a lot of customers and who write a lot of invoices, there's one last challenge, which is to make money. Be profitable by having efficient procedures, using technology through them, manage margins, accounts, cost structures, and facilities, and whatever is in the business. So what Growthwheel has always been about is to break down these 4 challenges into 20 focus areas, so that the first thing an advisor and a business can do is figure out what matters most. Not everything in a business is important all the time, so we need to focus. And Growthwheel is really a tool for prioritization. It's a framework that is really a checklist in a circle with colors on it, and then advisors and clients look at this to determine at any given point in time, on a board meeting, executive management team meeting, or when someone is sitting by their desk, which one is it that we're going to work on today? This framework is utilized in many ways, but we're going to talk about today, and we're going to show the AI features that we have. But first, a few words about Growthwheel. And I think, Elizabeth, I'm just going to hand it over to you and say a few words just to give everybody an overview of what is it that Growthwheel is doing, so you can see what we're going to present here in the context of that.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. So yeah, so we've had, I will go ahead and share my screen then.
I can share mine if you want. Yep.
That's okay. I will go ahead and, all righty. So yeah, so we've been working with over 5,000 business advisors since 2008. And we are used in 68 countries all around the world and counting. And so what we have as we look at Growthwheel is we've got 6 things. First of all, we do have our Growthwheel certification course. We have additional levels of certification as well. Secondly, we also have a business advisor certificate that focuses more on those interpersonal skills that help you become a trusted advisor. Third, we have business tool library with over 300 tools to help clients learn about various aspects of business, whether it's about hiring that next employee, how to manage their lender, or what marketing they should be doing. Fifth, we have a client learning platform where clients can learn about business topics on demand in their home at whatever time works for them. Fifth, we have an advisor CRM system and a client portal that was designed for the business advising industry. So advisors can track their interactions, their emails, and all the tools that they've shared with clients. And sixth, we have impact reporting so that you can customize that with the data, have it on the scheduling you need. That's just right there for you. So yeah, so that's what we have. And so now we've got our business canvas we're going to talk about.
That's right. And I can kick us off on that one. That is really number 3. We're looking at the tools. And one of the tools that we have enabled with AI is the 360 Business Canvas. So what we set out to do here is not what you may be familiar with, the business model canvas that Elizabeth is going to share more about a little bit later to make a comparison. But we set out to figure out, if you're an advisor, how can you best understand a client's business? Because you can't really advise a business if you don't understand it. So we believe you need to have a 360 view on a business, and why not base that on the Growthwheel framework? So our canvas, the 360 Business Canvas, looks like this. It has exactly one box for each of those areas that I just presented in the Growthwheel framework. And we also have individual pages here for those who are using this, and we will share a link shortly how you can download this tool. We have a freemium version, so everybody can get their hands on this tool right away. And then what we have done is we have just distilled one key question. And you can also think of this as a prompt, as we're going to get back to in just a moment. But one key question about these different focus areas in business that is required to make a business grow. So it starts with the business idea. What is the business? It moves on to the product portfolio. What are customers buying? To the revenue model. What are customers paying? To the customer portfolio. Who are the customers? And to the market position. Who is the competition? So these are very, very fundamental questions, right? That any advisor would ask a client anyway. What we have done, as we now see in the first section up here, is also to go in and add some additional keywords. Because when you ask a client or yourself as a business owner, what is the business? You could also ask, what is the mission of the business? What is the vision of the business in the future? What's the story behind the business and how it was first created? What are the values that this business believes in? And what is the growth potential of this business? So as you will see, for each of these areas, there are keywords. Now, this becomes important when you prompt the AI. Because if you just ask AI, what is the business? It will surely come up with a nice answer. But if you ask the AI, what is the business, and specify mission, vision, story, values, and potential, or evaluate those things, or come up with ideas for those things, or whatever the prompt is, it is a more rich prompt. We're going to talk much more about the importance of the richness of the prompt and the challenges in making them rich, and how technologies like what we're showing can help with that. But the Canvas also sometimes focus on organization, who leads the company, who works at the company, who are the partners in the company, how's the company working in terms of business processes, and what is the legal foundation? Could be incorporation, compliance, contracts, IP rights, and things like that. When it comes to customer relations, some basic questions that advisors ask the clients they work with is, how are contacts made? How is marketing done? How's the company selling? How's the company using media? What is the company brand? What makes people come back? What are the stories they tell? What's the visual identity, and things like that? And lastly, of course, for operations, how is money made? How's the business financed? How is the company producing and delivering services? What technologies are used, and which facilities are used? So you see from these basic questions and the keywords that this is a simple visual framework to get an overview, a full 360 perspective on a business, so you can really understand it. And you can't really advise a business if you don't understand it. So that is something that we have developed, and that we are using in AIs we're going to show later. But before we get to that, Elizabeth, I'd like, I don't know if you want to share your own slides, or we can roll on with mine, but you may be familiar already with the business model Canvas. So it's interesting to see the difference also, so you know, if you're going to use this in your in combination with AI, what the difference is in what AI is going to produce with these two different frameworks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, absolutely. Because maybe you're already using Business Model Canvas or Lean Canvas. A canvas really, as David was saying, is nothing but a question in a box. And so as you can see that it's really, these are just frameworks that we're looking at here with these options. And but there are some differences, and we can take a look at those. So some of the little bit significant, slightly different names for some of these. So for example, what we call, with what we have here on the screen, you can see what they call value propositions. We've broken into business idea versus product portfolio. And then also you can see another difference is what we call revenue model. They call revenue streams and channels. So they're broken up a little bit differently. Now, Growth Wheel, it doesn't just have those 9 areas that they have in Business Model Canvas. We have 20 focus areas. And so we do have more areas that are covered, as you can see this. So we know that Business Model Canvas kind of famously leaves out things like financing and ownership and communications and facilities, IT. So some of those things are left out. So that's why we like to make sure that those are covered. So so we can take a look that, of course, now with Business Model Canvas, it was sort of designed to make multiple different business models and then tweak little different areas and kind of figure out which one's the best way. With Growth Wheel, it's a little bit different. Our Canvas, we're trying to get that full 360-degree view and then decide where to focus. In Business Model Canvas, traditionally you would use Post-it notes to do brainstorming and put those on those different areas. David already pointed out that we have some keywords at the bottom of all of those areas. So here what we do is we look at those, we actually dive into decision sheets. So each one of those keywords represents a different decision sheet that we can use. So we have lots of different decision sheets in Growth Wheel that we can take a look at. And we have a few examples here. For example, we've got the product portfolio. So we can say, hey, maybe, helping the client to brainstorm what should be the product or service mix that they want to offer. Or maybe, who is that next key employee that they want to recruit for the business, and who are they? What are they going to be contributing to the business? What role would they play? What would be their education and mindset and things like that? We could also maybe think about a client that needs to work on their elevator pitch and define who that audience is going to be and help them work on that. Or maybe come up with ways that they could have better cash flow. So both short and long term. So we have all kinds of different ways that clients can brainstorm as we look through those different options that we have. And that really is what we, kind of help clients to think through. And that's how Growth Wheel is a little bit different than Business Model Canvas.
Yeah, that's right. Now, we have a 4-step growth planning process that we're just going to walk you through. before we see how the AI integrates. And one thing is to get the big picture of a business. That is what the canvas is doing. There's another step really is then to decide of all this information you have, what matters most. It is certainly knowing the destination, setting goals. So let's say employee matters most. Let's say market entry matters most. Then you want to define some specific goals. Get into a number of markets, get a certain number of revenue, get a certain number of distributors, something like that. Maybe hire one new employee, maybe hire one new employee per month, or whatever it might be. And then the fourth step in our simple growth planning process is to plan the next step, break goals down into details. This is not something that is new. It's actually very true to the way that advisors work. So when you download the Canvas, the Growth Wheel 360 Canvas, you actually see that on the backside, this step process is mentioned. There will be a way to make an assessment on this piece of paper. Those who are Growth Wheel certified and use our online platform can do that in the cloud, of course. When it comes to goals, you can make a little list here right on the sheet of paper that you're using, because it actually comes here even as a pad, so that you can sit with them in a meeting like with a piece of paper. But you can also go online and have sophisticated AI features to break down these goals. And on the backside, you can make an action plan. Of course, it gets even smarter when you do this in the cloud. And here's actually an example I want to show you from our AI. You can generate an action plan just from adding an ambition. It'll automatically put it on 30 days. It's repeating. You have an ambition, you generate an action plan, and AI is very good at making details. We may do a presentation of this a little bit later. So there you go, is that 4-step process. All right. So I want to next jump in and give you a live demo of how this looks when we're using the AI with the Canvas. So let me just jump over here. Then I don't know if you want to jump in now, Hilton. Otherwise, I will have you comment after I make the next part of the presentation, and you can talk a little bit about the experience in South Africa of utilizing this.
After your presentation.
Yes, I thought so. Very good. So let me share my screen right here and show you the Growth Wheel platform live. And yes, I did pick an opening here where we have our Arabic translation. So we have Growth Wheel in 19 different languages because we have partners all over the world. So one of them here is Arabic. I am going to switch to English though, if not for the audience's sake, then for my own. So we can just take a look here at how it works. Growth Wheel is a CRM system, as Elizabeth mentioned. So you have a list of your clients, and you can go in and invite them to the platform so they can log on and have an account there as well. We have, when you go into one client, the option of making business profiles. You can make financial overviews. You can make work on budgets and things like that. But we are going to focus on the growth plan. And on the growth plan, we have a number of things that we might take a look at. But today, our focus is the Canvas. So I want to show you here that how you can upload a Canvas to the platform. So if someone filled out the PDF file with the information that is asked in there, you'll see here that you can upload this PDF file. And the first thing the AI will do is simply read the file in just a moment here. So now you have all this information. You can copy it, you can paste it, you can edit it and work on it. So that can be very convenient when clients or advisors together have added all these key bullet points for the presentation. For example, this is a coffee roasting company. They make coffee roasters, and under business idea, they wrote, starting a coffee roasting company that will manufacture coffee roasters, offer roasting cleaning services, and sell roasted coffee beans, and so on. So now we have all this information in one place. And all this information, of course, can be used in the prompt. One of the problems when we're using AI is that our prompts are not good enough, right? We learned that by now. You can be a little bit tired of AI from time to time. It does 80% of the work, but you have to do the 20. And the 20 is a lot. Let's say you go in and you want to have some help with working on a business, and you write, I want this for this particular kind of business. and AI will write you a lot. It will write you as many pages as you want. Now you have to read them. And after you read them, you realize this is not exactly what I was looking for. So you give the AI more details. Maybe you do it in a project, maybe you do it in a MyGTP or whatever you have. So you update the prompt and it will generate much better content, but you have to read that as well. And it's still not perfect. So those who are using AI a lot knows that the prompting is really demanding. You have to really make an effort on the prompt. It's a very iterative process if you want to have consistent results again and again. And what we have found is that many business advisors and businesses don't spend the time of making the prompt. It just takes too much time. Now, if you have as input for your prompt all this information about the business, then you have a very rich prompt. And now you can generate really valuable documents. In this first release that came out just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we have launched first for the AI to generate conversation starters, opportunities, and market research ideas. Let me show you how that works. We have an API to OpenAI's ChatGPT that we are using. And what we do is we feed this AI now with a prompt, and we're asking it to come up with a conversation starter. We're basically saying, now this company answered some questions here on these 20 focus areas that we think really covers 360. But what would be deep dive questions? And without the user having to do any prompting, we've designed it so it comes up with a question for business idea, product portfolio, revenue model, and so on. It follows the 360 business canvas and asks some deeper dive questions like product portfolio. Based on what was written, a question comes up. In what ways can we expand the product portfolio to meet the needs of coffee enthusiasts and businesses alike? That's a pretty good question. It may not be a good question. If it's not, we can delete it and we can focus on some of the others. So as an advisor, you may not want to send your client with 20 questions for everything, but it's certainly a good starting point. And what I find is that even, of course, if one of these questions are not right, it inspires me to a better question. So that's one of the things that advisors need. They need conversation starters, right? So they can start that whole process of prompting and asking clients. And you may think of questions naturally. We do as advisors and as human beings who learn about other businesses, but we may not think about 20 questions that cover 360. So AI is great at that, especially when it gets a rich prompt with all these details. Now, you may not want to have conversation starters. Maybe a business comes to you because they really want to have new opportunities, like in a SWOT analysis. But instead of starting with a blank square where you have to put in bullet points for what are opportunities for this particular business, why not give the AI a rich prompt from the canvas and say, given all this information about the business, what would be potential opportunities? We asked for only 10. That's how we engineered the prompt. It could be different, but again, we take away from the use of the work of thinking about. You have to limit it. You have to have just enough and not too much. So yeah, here we have a generation of ideas. For example, enhance the subscription model. And it even shows some options for how that could be done. So now advisors suddenly have 10 options. This can be downloaded. This can be copied. You can change and edit things that you don't like. So it is much faster to have conversations with businesses about what the opportunities are. But maybe this is not what you want. Maybe you're not ready to suggest any opportunities. As an advisor, you may prefer to first do some research. We need to know more about this business before we can advise it. So you want to have a research plan. And any advisor can make that, but not this fast. So what we do is now we say, well, given this information about the business, what could we research? And it comes up with typically with some good stuff. Industry trends, that's a classic. Consumer behavior, competitor benchmarking, but also distribution channels, right? And it mentions specifically the coffee industry here, an example of the Specialty Coffee Association, for example, where you could do market research or look for trends, for example. It even has specific sources for research, Nielsen IQ, IBIS World, maybe familiar with some of these places where you can get information about something. So that is how we took and made a bridge from a framework, a structure for a conversation. We have the 360 business canvas, but this could be done with the business model canvas or any other framework. We get this information into our platform. We use this information in a prompt that's been engineered to produce at least these 3 documents. And this is just the beginning. before the end of the spring quarter, we can have at least another free business documents that can be generated right here. And you can, of course, upload as many canvases as you want so that you have an option to produce the documents you need for advising a business. So that was my presentation of our technology, first here presented in the Middle East at your conference, Dr. Hanadi. And now I want to welcome questions from the audience, of course, and comments as well on what you've seen. But also, Hilton, I want to start with you just to share a little bit of your perspective on what this technology have done for entrepreneurs in South Africa in particular.
Good evening, everyone, and it's great to be back. And it's it feels like a little family, you know. And I saw Igor here. He comes from a different family, so it seems the family is connecting, and the village is growing wider and wider. Yes, I think, you know, I figure one can't just talk about South Africa anymore and just, you know, AI has made the world flat. Now everyone is a coder, and similarly, you know, everyone has access to information. The challenge we have now is that, you know, over the years, with our experience, advisors have gone from business plan writers to focusing on using a structured system. And, you know, very much, Elizabeth, you know, business model canvas was that thing that kind of pulled everyone into kind of the sticky note, you know, ideation thinking, and then AI in some way took people back to this business plan way of working, which was again with lots of text, lots of resources, and so that efficiency kind of went. And so the challenge that we found with business advisors and their clients is they use the free version of the LLMs. And then this doesn't give you specific data. And so, yes, David, people spend a lot more time in the admin side. They have to read those documents, right? They have to make sure that some other company isn't mentioned in their growth plan, in their report, you know. And they also, you know, business advisory is about focusing on your customers' needs and their customers' needs. So if you have a general response in your AI, this becomes a problem, you know? And so I think, Elizabeth, and like we've both have many years working in small business and incubators, etc. We've seen this evolution, and it's always those that kind of find the structured approach. Entrepreneurship is chaos, and I think Dr. Hanadi, I think AI has made this a little bit more chaotic for us than ever before, because now your client arrives with 12 AI documents and you were there supposed to focus on their growth plan, what really most needs their attention. And so I find that this is perhaps the challenge for entrepreneurship support organizations around the world, is that we back into taking business advisors, mentors, and coaches into administrative staff. You know, during COVID, many people had surveys and everyone reported their impact on spreadsheets. And this also turned them to inefficient professional resources for business advice, you know, called business advisors. And so I think, you know, what we've seen here with not just our 360 business model canvas, but with the integration of AI in a structured manner, is that your clients is able to benefit from your efficiency. Yeah. And I think that's very important. Clients don't have time to waste.
Yeah, very much. I think you make a good point. I guess with the generic business plans, right, that are just too generic, and anybody, an investor, a lender, who is looking at these things will immediately see that it's not specific enough. And I guess, Elizabeth, as you were a business advisor for 19 years, and I guess in the past, people would copy templates, right? They would find on the internet, someone had a business plan template, and it's kind of the same now. because they're still templates, right? They're just a little bit smarter and quicker and so on. So there's a little bit of parallel there, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're always looking for something. What is that easiest way to do this? It's not like any, I never had anyone that said, "Oh, I can't wait to write my business plan." You know, they'd always beg me as their business advisor, "Can't you write that for me? You know, can't you do that for me?" And so they're just looking for the easiest and the fastest shortcut to get that done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And talking about the shortcut, Elizabeth, we've seen that advisors that doesn't kind of, everyone is using, about 97% of people are now using AI. It's been the fastest adopted kind of, new tool that we have on the internet and so forth. Only 1% has really achieved what they were set out, what they wanted to get. And so therein lies a huge problem, is that some people then end up training these large language modules in with a free kind of user login and putting their client data there. And do they actually aware of what they're doing, which laws they are breaching? We have GDPR in the US, in EU, we have, in South Africa, we have Papaya, and I'm not sure what they have in the Middle East, but I think, these are the kind of things that we need to think about as business advisors. We are accountable, we're responsible, but just like we use the internet, and just like we kind of said, you can't copy someone's business plan, we also need to be responsible as we use different tools, right? And it's actually one of the things that we've discussed and researched the last 7, 8 months, David. In South Africa, we hold the G20 and the Startup 20, where we cover things like entrepreneurship support and etc. These are some of the things that we identified is data sovereignty and where AI is taking us, and whether you work in the structured environment, because not only you're protecting your localized support, but you're also protecting your customer or your entrepreneurship center in what you put forward into an open system. And I
Yes.
think what we've achieved, since we first kind of built the MVP for the 360 Business Canvas, and of course earlier this year when we started releasing the AI, is that efficiency that business advisors experience when you work within a structured system, that you don't copy paste. When you put in the business profile and you do your 360 canvas, these two already talk to each other. And when you do an assessment and a growth plan, they already talk to your financials and your budgets, right?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you have a structured accelerator program or entrepreneurship, program, 12 months, or a longer incubation program, that as your team leaves and as the entrepreneur, get new executives in their team, this data is always on one single spot. And this is perhaps one of the critical challenges for entrepreneurship support organizations, for universities for that matter.
Yeah. And that brings us to the a question here, or a comment rather, in the chat from a Zoom user. We cannot see your name, but we can see your comment. And the user is saying, I'm working in the Grok with steps, I think, to find the best model for the problem solution, and advice. And I think in doing that, no matter what AI platform you're using, again, what's going to determine the quality of how the problem is analyzed, how the advice is given, the solution is produced, is going to be how much information, as Hilton just talked about, how much information can you safely give the AI so it actually gets the chance to produce better information. And that's also why when you look at this canvas we presented, this is generic for any business, as we talked about. But
Right.
Elizabeth, we could show a little bit here how that, again, to the point of getting this correct information in, we can change how the AI works by also changing the questions we're asking. And of course, there is a difference between being a technology business, a carpet roasting company, a food business, or maybe an e-commerce business or something like that. So we are also in the process of launching industry-specific canvases that the AI will read and respond to in a different way, because now we are much more specific in our questions and our prompts to the industry. So let's get a peek at that, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. So you may work with a lot of clients in a certain industry. So for example, maybe you work with clients who are in the childcare business, so daycares, or businesses that work with a lot of retail, or businesses that do exporting. So the questions and keywords will be very specific then in those boxes for those industries. So for childcare, the legal issues for childcare, for example. So this is our childcare business canvas. And so you can see that the questions are just a little bit different. So instead of what is the business, it's now, well, what is the concept? What are families buying? What are families paying? Who are the parents and children? Who is the daycare competing with? So we've got very specific questions then that are a little bit different that we can take a look at. And so those are some of the things that are going to be coming as we continue to have that. We do already have on our, for those who are GrowthWheel users, the 360-degree childcare business canvas is available. We have an e-commerce canvas, and we also have a founders canvas. I'm going to stop sharing this and switch over to a different slide to show you that really quickly. So let me get that one up here. Here we go. And with the founder canvas, it's a little bit more for maybe those clients that you're working with that are, they're not even sure what they're going to be doing. They're really early in this phase. And so the founder canvas is really about, do they have what it takes? So we're going to look at these 4 main areas. And one is about the aspirations. So what is their purpose, their short, medium, long-term vision? What are their personal and business values? So thinking through that for the client. We can also look at their capabilities. What skills do they have? What is their educational background? Or what is their experience? Maybe it's not a formal education, but they have years of experience working in an industry, and so that's going to support them. We can also look at the relationships. Do they have a network that they can reach out to? Do they have business partners? Who would be some of their first customers? Have they thought through that? And finally, of course, we want to think about the resources they have. Do they have a location or facilities or equipment? What about money? Of course, they need to have the capital. And what about time? Is this going to be a part-time thing that they're doing on the side? Is this going to be something they're going to be doing seasonally? So they can think about that. And then we can take a look at the answers that they have into these boxes and say, hey, do we think that they're not ready, almost ready, or they're ready to go now? And helping them then figure out, so based on that, maybe what should they be doing? So we still kind of have some of those elements of that 4-step planning process that David showed earlier, where it's like, okay, what are your goals or your ambitions? What do they want to achieve? Maybe to help support what they don't have. And then also what would be an action plan? So what could they do going forward? So we can take a look at those options as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. So again, you see what changes here in these frameworks is the question. And we already know that when you work with AI, it's the question that you ask, it's the prompt that you write that is going to be make the big difference. The case we are making here today that you can be inspired by is to put that extra effort into generating these frameworks of questions. So you really make sure that when you work with AI, you ask all the right questions, because if you ask all the right questions, AI is going to be pretty good with coming up the answers. It's good with that. But if you don't ask the question, right, it's going to be very hard. We can even consider that we didn't have any AI at all. What would constitute a great business advice? It would be someone who really made sure they asked all the questions and got that full perspective. And it's no different with the AI. It can only give, as good answers as the questions that are coming to the table. So whether you work with a general business in the early stage, with someone who's growing, with a founder, as Elizabeth said, with someone in a niche business like childcare or e-commerce or retail or whatever it is, it's those questions that makes the difference to the output from the AI. Input equals output. And that's why we, as someone who's focused on helping business advisors, made this effort of really making sure we got the questions right. So that's my recommendations for all of you here today, to think about that. No matter how you use AI to produce these kinds of output, put the extra effort into the questions and consider frameworks like what we've been working on here as an example for you, Hilton.
I just wanted to add to that, David. Like our experience, we have about 7.5 million youth, and about 4.5 million of them are unemployed. You know, and this is actually a global problem that we have challenges with youth, new jobs. You know, everything is changing. We've seen, you know, the big companies reducing staff because AI has kind of automated, you know, loads of things in the business. And so we now need to have lecturers, professors, give them the tools to get the students at the desk already in the class, in the lecture room, already start asking the right questions so that you can map this theory of being an accountant or be you know, a doctor or whatever the case may be, whatever your journey is, studying engineering, etc., that you already start thinking about, you know, how your theory turns into self-employment or employment for that matter, but also starting a business. And we've seen, you know, here in South Africa with our own program, how the 360 Business Canvas has really been a simplified tool for lecturers to integrate into their classroom and for students to take the academic and theory and apply that in a simulation to start a business or test a business and build an MVP that way. You know, these days we have vibe coding, so you know, you can have a website out tonight, you can have an app out tomorrow morning, but that's just an output. We've known for the last 120 years, if you don't plan a business, 90% of them will fail. You know, we do know that when you are connected to a business advisor, 54% of your growth will come quicker because you are connected to a business advisor. But you need to have a structured business advisor, and just a free AI account is not that.
And I think, Professor Nas Unel, that our time is up. I think it was right here at 45 minutes past the hour. But again, I would be happy to open up for any questions or comments from the panelists or from the audience.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Hilton. What a great presentation. I learned a lot as a business professor. Particularly, I needed this information tremendously. I tried to download the program as you were talking because you provided the link. I'm not sure if I was successful as of yet, but I will check it again because this is a great tool. We can definitely utilize in the classrooms. They will have hands-on experience a little bit. It's kind of imitating what could be happening in the real world, and that's sometimes we are struggling with in the classrooms. But thank you, great information. Anyone who would like to ask any questions to our
No
speakers?
question. In fact, Professor Nas, my conference protocols is no Q&A, but we have a discussion between us and between the speaker. Just I need to answer one question for David. He is now, this is 6th year. I'm the first advisory from the Middle East who is owning the certificate of growth wheel since 2000, 2012?
2008.
2008, yes. We'll be together in Abu Dhabi when he's
Yes.
coming there. And only me, I continue the advisory and continue till today. But now there are plenty of advisory from all over the world. The answer for why we invite you every year, because you have a leading model supporting by AI for the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And our conference is focusing in entrepreneurial ecosystem and AI ecosystem and innovation ecosystem. Based on that, we need to spread your model in all over the world and let the people implement it and be part of your model. Now, I think Professor Nas will be part of this model with your students. Maybe.
Loved it.
You can test it out for free, and I think maybe the link we shared was not with the different language versions. So I wonder, Elizabeth, we can put out the one with the Arabic.
I'm not sure if I have that link. I have so I have our basic where you can click the blue access tool button.
Yes.
add your information in there and then you can download it. So,
Right. We are going to get that in just a moment. So yes, and it's free to use. We have a freemium model only for certified advisors. They get access to all the technology. The basic framework is one that we share with the world.
Prof. Nas, what we've done with the students in one particular university is we took 100 common business ideas that was, done in the country, and the students were able to simulate them and build their own versions of their company, starting off with the 360 business canvas. And so, if you need some tips on how to do that, just reach out.
Yes, definitely. I will be bothering all of you very soon because particularly when it comes to some of the niche subjects, for example, I teach business sustainability, the developing sustainable business practices.
Yes.
And there are not really out there enough information about it and how to do it. So these kinds of practices will be very important when students are developing any kind of ideas, and they have great ideas, but they should be more structured, as you also mentioned, Hilton. And
Yes.
so this is a great
And
tool.
I'm going to throw David under the bus and say to him, this is a co-creation opportunity with Professor Nas to develop a 360 canvas for sustainable business ideas.
We would enjoy that very much. Thank you, Hilton. You're not throwing me under the bus. You're putting me on the bus.